Your initial thought, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, and let's jump into the matchups.
I mean, my initial thought is that it's an opportunity for the Lions to stay hungry, even though it's the regular season, even though in some ways I'm sure they're just ready for the playoffs to start already. Because, like you said, the Lions, even last year, even during their renaissance season where they won the division for the first time in 30-plus years, they didn't win on Thanksgiving. This is another box to check on the list that they still have to prove some allegations for. Not that we think that they can't do it, but they still got to win on Thanksgiving. And also, this was a Bears defense last year, and we're going to get into the defense in just a second, that gave Jared Goff some problems last year. In 2 games versus the Bears last season, Jared Goff, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He was only good in the last 4 minutes of the game.
I was about to say, a magical comeback.
Absolutely. In the game at Ford Field, which was awesome, which was why they were able to get all win against the Bears last year. But this Bears defense, it's still top 10 in the NFL in points allowed per game. But the thing about this Bears defense where the Lions can potentially exploit is that, I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me that Montez Sweat's regressing a little bit, Jalen Johnson's regressing a little bit, and TJ Edwards is regressing a little bit. They've had some guys step up, like Gervon Dexter's a really good defensive tackle, Kyler Gordon's a nice nickel corner, to name a couple, but I think this Bears defense is good. It is gettable. I think that Jared Goff has a better game this year than he did in the 2 games last year. But there's also some potential injuries on the Lions offense, which could hinder them a bit.
Now, Stick heard your golf slander. He said, golf slander? GTFO.
Are you serious? I said that he played. He had 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year against the Bears. But I also said that he was great in the final 2 minutes in the game at Ford Field, in which the Lions won. That's why some of you golf people are still insufferable. Stick.
And last year,
You're the only one.
Last year you would say that 1-1 record, it was against in my opinion, a more formidable Bears team. This year I do expect 2-0 against the Bears. Tyler Roy, he says, $9.99 super chat. Y'all are the best. Go Lions. Have a happy Thanksgiving, guys. Thank you for that.
Yep,
and
shout
of
out
course,
Tyler.
Definitely. Shout out to Tyler Roy. And shout out to you, chat family. We appreciate the support as always. And with these Detroit Lions, obviously there's a lot to be thankful for with them. Let's jump into this defense because you kind of teed it up there just a little bit. I don't believe that the Bears defense is as, something that we had to think about last year. That was a defense, especially if they made some changes that we were like, okay, this is something that the way that we were structured last year, I was a little bit more concerned than I am this year. This year, I don't really have any concern. I expect the offense to go in there and look as well-oiled as they have been against better defenses before the Bears.
Well, the Lions are a better team, too, than they were last year. The offense, if they're healthy, is a well-oiled machine that matches at their peak. Exceeds at their peak what they were able to do last season. The only thing that worries me a tad is the fact that it is a short week, and unfortunately this was not the best week for it to be a short week. The Lions, if you can say they have one glaring disadvantage against the Bears, is that the Bears are the healthier team. When you look at the questionable list for the Lions, Monty's questionable, Amon-Ra's questionable, Decker's questionable, and Raymond is questionable. If all 4 of them are out, I could see a pathway for the Bears keeping it a lot closer than we're all comfortable with. But they're still questionable. I know that Monty and Amon-Ra, they were limited practice on Tuesday. If I were to make a guess, I'm not a doctor, I'm probably guessing that Khalif doesn't play. Taylor Decker, he's already missed some games. We don't necessarily know, but
we haven't liked how that looked either.
Unfortunately, this is not the best week to have a short week.
Man, but I was thinking about it too. Like, imagine if this short week they had to travel to Chicago. So I am grateful that they get to be at home in Ford Field. And I know that Detroit is going to be absolutely insane and rocking to give them that extra little boost, especially for the next man up guys. I never underestimate how much the support of what the fans can give. Obviously, they're going to go out there and play their hardest. That's what I expect from a Dan Campbell coach team. But I already know that the atmosphere is going to be absolutely rocking. But you're right. We have to take these into consideration because last year, this team was almost flawless. There was a couple things that we saw trip them up. And one of those things was short week and injuries was a perfect recipe for them to lose to a team that I believe that they were better than.
And I want to be clear, I don't think that there's any way that the Lions will lose.
Right.
Just for the record, because the Bears, despite the fact that they're healthier, despite the fact that they have talent, despite the fact that they have a top 10 defense in terms of points allowed per game, they're still a 4-7 football team. They're a team that has let some games slip away. I believe they're a poorly coached team, first of all, which is something that the Lions will absolutely exploit. More on that in the next segment, by the way. That's something that you certainly can't be if you go in and play the Detroit Lions, because the Detroit Lions are the best coach team in the NFL.
You damn right.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think that you can call Dan Campbell the best coach in the NFL yet, because Andy Reid still exists. But in terms of overarching, in terms of offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard, Hank Fraley, Dave Phipp, Terrell Williams, that coaching staff is just, I don't know how else to say it. It's a wagon. It's immaculate. It's absolutely elite. And the Bears do not have that.
Not at all.
Their coach is probably going to get fired.
And you know what else the Detroit Lions have? That where when you are missing talent, you have to have this. And it's that level of physical. In a game of football, it is. And honestly, you can see it throughout sports. Where you are lacking in talent, a level of physicality that you bring to the game, both offensively and defensively, can make a difference. Because if that other team ain't ready for it, you will wear them down. You will catch them by surprise. You will pop them in the mouth, and they will not be able to recover. It's almost as like if I just walk up to you and it says, "Bop," right in the bridge of your nose, it's a wrap. And that's what I love about the Detroit Lions players. The one thing we were worried about when Aiden Hutchinson went down is who can replace his production. You can't. But if you have a whole team of rabid dogs, how much does it matter? And to this point, we've seen these Detroit Lions players, despite skill, we want better out of some of them. We would want them to perform at the greatest levels possible. But we see them going out there and literally being exactly what Dan Campbell described from the beginning. Because oftentimes we think about the aspect of the kneecap biting, but what this team has continued to do, and why I believe that this is just a BTA situation, no matter who's out there on the field for the Lions, is they know and they expect sometimes that they're going to be down. But who are you when you're down as well? And that's why I expect this team to go out there and just handle business.
I mean, they were down big at Houston, and they ended up winning. And I honestly, if it plays out the way that I think it'll play out, I don't believe that the Lions will be down in this game, because there's some other advantages that they have that I'm going to talk about in the next segment, to where despite the Lions' injuries, because as they keep piling up, there is a part of me that wonders, even if it's just for a regular season game, even if a couple of these guys end up being out just because it's a short week, how much longer can they sustain this? But there are still a lot of players on this Detroit Lions, a lot of the players who are some of the best in the NFL, who are not on the injury report at all. And if we go offensively, like a Jared Goff, like a Jahmyr Gibbs, like a Penei Sewell, like a Kevin Zeitler, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, none of those guys are on the injury report. Tim Patrick even, who has really emerged as a viable threat.
But this is where it proves that it is more than just kind of getting on here and just, I'm fired up for every little thing that they do. When we talk about identity, when we talk about their process, well, now we're actually seeing it. Now we're seeing that, no, that identity from the first player all the way down to the last player, it absolutely matters. When they talk about the types of players they want to bring in here, the guys that they bring in and they might not even play it down, and we talk about the fabric of that room, now when we're facing adversity, we're seeing how much more that identity matters for the Detroit Lions. Because like you, part of me, I had to just throw that caution that you experienced to the wind. I was like, you know what? I'm just jumping out there. Dan Campbell, catch me, bro. And Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, his Lions team has consistently done that. And it's like, I know it's the Bears on the docket, and I feel so much more confident about what we're going to do to them than even I felt about the last 2 weeks. But even in those games, I still felt confident despite the losses that we had experienced.
And as I said yesterday, the Lions continue to next man up this bitch in a way that I honestly, I'm not kidding when I say this. I don't know if I've ever seen a team just win the battle of attrition and not have injury luck. That's what they're doing. They are still managing to win the battle of attrition by being this next man up football team. Obviously, if we're talking about their defense, which we'll get to more in a second, getting a guy like Zadarius Smith obviously helps, but we're seeing people emerge and playing better than you ever thought that they could, especially a guy, for example, like a Malcolm Rodriguez, who everybody thinks that I was a Malcolm Rodriguez hater. It's a very complicated issue, and I don't have time to get into it now, but obviously I'm happy.
You was hating a little bit.
I'm happy with how he's played now. No, I was unhappy last year when people were acting like he was Mike Allstott at fullback, Dick Butkus at linebacker,
I'm pretty sure we wouldn't act
and
like
Matthew
that.
Slater as a special teams player, which was obviously false, but I obviously like what Malcolm Rodriguez has done this year. That's how people were acting.
I'm
He
pretty
played
sure
all
we
three
wasn't.
positions.
I mean, how did he not?
But you know what? That was out of line by me. Malcolm Rodriguez has been phenomenal this year. His PFF grade is actually better than Jack Campbell's, for the record. Not sure how much you want to take into that, and that's not a diss at Jack Campbell.
That's your
It's just-
favorite site, though.
I do love that site.
Yeah.
But the point is that a guy like Malcolm Rodriguez, those are the type of guys who really you need to step up when you're trying to win the battle of attrition and do the next man up. And you also need people like Ali McNeil who have managed to stay healthy and take another leap.
And what identity have you seen from them? When I see Malcolm Rodriguez out there and I see some of these guys who are the backups or who don't play necessarily the starters or the regular rotation, they look nasty out there. Every hit looks nasty. Every single time they're tackling somebody, they're wrapping up nasty. Malcolm Rodriguez tosses people every time he's tackling them. He wraps up, and I just see him just boom, like it's nothing. And he walks back like, I'm not even breathing heavy, bro. And like, that's what I see out of the squad, and I love that, man. Like, when we just step outside the X's and O's and the things that wills this team beyond logic of no Anzalone, no Aiden Hutchinson, no problem. That is crazy to me. I don't even know how you break that down. Like, how do you scheme? How do you sit down and realistically break this down? We're missing half of our day one starters on defense, and we're still playing elite.
Still playing elite. But you know what else has been elite quite a bit? This Lions defense as well.